Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Forgotten Hero Reviews. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Now, let's get down to business because we've got a lot of territory to cover. So let's flex those muscles. I'm so sorry.
牛丼一筋300年早いのうまいの安いの
In 2019, I took a trip to the land of the rising sun, Japan, and I got some items out of their world-famous Gatchapon machines. But the initial plan was to do more traveling, but that certain ongoing global situation kind of derailed that train. So I decided, instead of maybe 5 years on the 5th anniversary of my trip to Japan, opening these up, I thought, well, I'd just go ahead and do it now, since there are travel restrictions and things like that. And it would give me the subject for my first video. So yeah, hey, lemons at a lemonade or something like that. When I was in Japan, I was really pleased to see the Kinnikuman Kenkeshi in their Gatchapon machines, and I saw all of these billboards and banners and even a life-size figure, or nearly life-size figure of Kinnikuman in the shop. And I was like, man, it's amazing to see how popular this character still is. But there was a reason for that. And it didn't dawn on me until I was there a little bit, that it was actually the 40th anniversary of Kinnikuman. And it took me a while to put that together. If I could read Japanese better, I would have probably figured that out a lot sooner. But I think there was a one-shot originally in 1978, but it didn't start publication, like serialized publication, until 79. So I believe 79 is like the widely regarded official sort of start date of Kinnikuman in Japan. So yeah, I was there for the 40th anniversary and didn't even realize it until like a day later or so. It just so happened to be the 20th anniversary of Naruto and the 10th anniversary of Attack on Titan. So there's also that. I think it's safe to say that most kids in the US were introduced to Kinnikuman through Muscle, Mattel's Americanized rebranding of the popular Japanese property. I think it's also safe to say that it hit at almost exactly the right time, considering how mainstream professional wrestling had become in America. It had always been popular, but at this point in time, we had Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling as a Saturday morning cartoon show, and Sergeant Slaughter was a member of the G.I. Joe team. Its popularity really exploded around this time. And when you also consider the massive hits of brawny sci-fi fantasy characters like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Thundercats, and the always popular superheroes, a character like Kinnikuman and his supporting cast, who had a foot in all of those worlds, seemed like a pretty good fit. I said almost exactly the right time earlier because I do feel like it would have benefited from being released a couple years earlier, to really capitalize on the apex of that craze as it started to die down towards the late 80s and into the 90s. The wrestling boom lost some of its momentum until it ramped up again in the late 90s. I think another thing that detracted from its potential success and potentially having a longer shelf life was the fact that the Kinnikuman cartoon was never rebranded or rebroadcast here. But there are also reasons for that. I know a lot of people cite the violence, and yes, it is a violent show. It does have some violence in it. But there are there are other elements of the show which even by 80s standards would have been problematic, and by today's standards would probably cause an outrage. I'm not going to go into the details here. If you're a Kinnikuman fan, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I'll just leave it at that. One thing we did get was the Muscle video game, which was unfortunately kind of a letdown for most of us. A lot less dynamic wrestling moves and a lot more bouncing off the ropes and scooting across the ring on your caboose, which was very disappointing considering many of the other pro wrestling games that came out for the Nintendo Entertainment System were a lot more dynamic and fun to play, and they just looked a lot cooler. I've never been a fan of like the oversized head chibi style characters, which for some odd reason they decided to present us with in the Muscle game. Later video games released within that same universe were a lot more visually interesting and featured much smoother gameplay. I also realized there were several consoles and many years of game development in between that initial Nintendo Entertainment System release and subsequent Kinnikuman video game releases. But not to worry, Nintendo Entertainment System, you're still a classic and we still love you. So what I was going to do was talk about all of these items, extra items that you see here, separately, but I feel like I've kept you waiting long enough. So what I will do is add their own very short video to the channel at a later date. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the main event and crack these suckers open, okay? Okay, let's start with the smallest one first. I do believe that's Sunshine in there. At first glance, I'm pretty sure that's who that is. Yes, sir, that's who that is. Comes with a little character sheet. That's pretty cool. I'm guessing that shows you who was available at the time. That's pretty cool. Let me see if I can pop this guy open. He's not bagged up too tight. There we go. Alright, yeah. Green Sunshine. That's a little different. But still very cool. It looks like he's got the roller attack going on there. I like how they are, you know, basically in the scale of the originals. That's pretty awesome. I like that a lot. Very cool. Let's take a look and see who else we've got, although I can pretty much already tell. We've got, that looks like, oh yeah, Akuma Shogun and Akuma Shogun and Kinnikuman himself in a combat pose. So yeah, these figures you could probably, you know, could stand alone, but then they definitely link together to basically look like Kinnikuman's getting clobbered pretty well. Getting his clock cleaned there. That is awesome. I am really digging that. It's a cool combat pose just on its own. Let's see what else we've got here. Those are so cool. And finally, we have, oh, that is awesome right there. That is awesome. We have Robin Mask, and this one might be a little bit harder to sell as a figure or just on its own, but together, that is very cool. That is, oops, I'm not doing it right. There we go. That looks pretty good. That is Robin Mask giving the tower bridge to Kinnikuman. That's pretty excellent. I really dig the translucent. That's very cool. I don't think, none of the originals were like done that way in translucent plastic, but some of the Ultimate Muscle figures were. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I am very happy with this acquisition. I'm glad I picked these up when I was there. Can't really stand up on his own. A little too top heavy for that to happen. But yeah, a fine assortment of figures. A fine assortment of mostly Kinnikuman getting the snot kicked out of him. That's that's pretty fun. But yeah, I am enjoying these a lot. These are not the only items that I picked up while I was in Japan from the Gatchapon machines. And I'm planning a part 2 video to discuss those. So that should be prepared in about 2 weeks. And I have a hastily thrown together initial reaction review video coming out next week to tide you over in the meantime. So, yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll come back again. And, yeah, I appreciate it, as always. Thank you very much. See ya.